Hi book friends, welcome back. It's Kim, the lifelong reader. On this Recent Reads, I get to tell you about the books I currently have in progress, the books I finished up since I met with you last, and also a special DNF. So let's talk about these books. All right, unfortunately, the book that I decided to DNF this time is A River Runs Through It. This is a collection of 3 short stories that are nature writing, and they do have a fly fishing theme. I was about 70 pages into the first story here, A River Runs Through It, and I realized that the humans in these stories were really interrupting the flow of the nature writing for me. I did not enjoy time with the humans. They do a lot of drinking, getting in trouble with the law, and just general carousing. And I wasn't really enjoying it. So I decided to go ahead and put this into my donate pile and stop reading it just about 2/3 of the way through that first story. So that was a bit of a disappointment for me. There is an audience for that book. It's just not me. So let me tell you about the books that I currently have in progress. And the first one is going to be Cider House Rules by John Irving. I did start this as part of the reading group on BookTube. I started a few days late, and after week 1, I quickly fell behind the group. So I haven't been joining the Voxer chats, even though I am still part of the group, and I will go look at those later just to kind of catch up with everybody's thoughts. But this book has a lot of heavy themes that I found myself needing to kind of get some time away from. This book is set in an orphanage, and the physician who runs the orphanage also performs abortions. So it felt a little bit heavy to me, and I wanted to make sure that I was reading some lighter reads at the same time. So I've worked a couple other things into the rotation. Now, that is not to disparage this novel. John Irving is an amazing writer. He writes like nobody I've ever read before, and he manages to put so much variety in what he writes. I know that might sound crazy, but it just feels like it's almost like eating at a TGI Fridays, and you have all of the different things on the walls. There's so much to look at. They're so eclectic. And I know that's a dated reference, but you know what I mean if you were around when TGI Fridays first became popular. To me, Irving does that in his writing. There's just so much that comes into the story that you are not expecting, and most of it seems to fit there. So I'm amazed by that writing style. So I will keep up with this, even though I have fallen short of the group's progress. I will keep up with this on my own and catch up with that chat at a later time. All right, the next book that I have in progress is from my viewer TBR from 60 Days here on BookTube. And my November choice from that list was Theo of Golden. And I am just about 80% through that book. And so far, it has not disappointed. If you've been watching some of my reviews, you'll know that I'm in a weepy period of my life. I'm a weepy reader, and I have had to dry my eyes a few times during the first 80% of this book. And it's not because it's sad, it's because it has a lot of touching parts. So in Theo of Golden, in case you didn't watch that previous video, we are following a man who is 86 years old, and he has left his home in New York to spend some time in Golden, Georgia. And he moves into town as a stranger and quickly develops a way to start to get to know people when he goes into the local coffee shop and he sees the beautiful pictures hanging on the wall, and they are pencil drawings, portraits of different members of the community there. He decides to buy them one by one and gift them to the person who has been drawn. And the occasions where he meets them have been really nice to read through. They are meeting in the community by a fountain, so it's a beautiful setting. We go through the seasons with Theo as he's in Georgia, and he goes around and meets all of the different folks in town. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm looking forward to getting it done. I was trying to get it done before this video, but I couldn't quite make it. I don't want to rush it. So I am looking forward to updating you and telling you how that read goes for me. The other book I have in progress on my Kindle is Early Autumn, and that is the 1926 novel by Louis Bromfield from my Pulitzer project that I'm reading through. And I am just about 30% of the way through that book, according to my Kindle. And I'm really enjoying the way Bromfield is portraying one of the lead characters, which I'll remind you from my previous video. This book is following the life of Sabine Calendar, I think is her last name. She is a 46-year-old woman who has recently returned to a very upper crust area of New England, where she was born and raised, but moved away from around the age of 26. She was a quiet and shy girl with kinky red hair, and we don't know a lot about how she was feeling back then, but we do know now that she's come back to town at the age of 46, she is viewed by these wealthy older people around her as kind of the black sheep of the family. They are talking about what an awkward girl she was when she lived there, how they feel so sorry for her. But really on the inside, they're thinking how irritated they are that she didn't come home cowed. And it looks to them like she's had a fantastic life wherever she's been. So they're very irritated with her. One of the things I'd like to do is just kind of read a sample to you so you get an idea for how Bromfield is portraying her in this novel, because that's one of the parts that I'm personally really enjoying. So to give you some context, when Sabine left her area of Durham, which is where the Pentland family lives in New England, when she left her area, she sold her property to Mr. O'Hara, who happens to be an Irishman. And of course, that just drove the rest of the family crazy. And even though Mr. O'Hara has been their neighbor for the past 20 years, the older Pentlands still do not care for him. So in this part that I'm going to read you, this is Mr. O'Hara viewing Sabine as she's driving up towards his house. He knew, too, almost at once, on the day she had driven up to the door of the cottage, that she had made a discovery about life which he himself had made long since, that there is nothing of such force as the power of a person content merely to be himself, nothing so invincible as the power of simple honesty, nothing so successful as the life of one who runs alone. Somewhere she had learned all this. She was like a woman to whom nothing could ever again happen. Now, I like that portrayal of Sabine. I like her being a strong force coming back into this community, and I really like that she is 46 years of age. And if you watched my previous video, you'll remember that this novel opens with a Pentland family ball. They are introducing some young women to society, one of whom happens to be Sabine's daughter, Therese. And Sabine completely blocks the spotlight from these girls unintentionally. As an older woman, the crowd is looking at her. They're talking about her, how great she looks. And again, they're feeling that inner conflict with how they wish she looked. So I'm really enjoying this. Now, I'm moving through it kind of slow. It is my back burner read. It's the one I reach for last. I may change that though when I'm done with Theo of Golden. I may plunge headlong into this so I don't lose the momentum, because I am really enjoying learning more about Sabine, and I'm enjoying seeing how the country folk are, or the rich country folk are reacting around her. So really enjoying that one. So those are the books that I have in progress. I do have one more, but I'm going to tell you about it shortly. So you guys know I love audiobooks during the week. I had a really great audiobook week. I finished 2 audiobooks, so let me tell you about those. The first one is an audiobook that was 4 hours long, and it is called Love and Saffron, and it's written by Kim Fay. And I had never read Kim before, but I was browsing on my library app and I saw this short little read and I thought, oh, that looks so cute. Let me listen to that. and it was adorable. Love and Saffron takes us through the story of Joan and Imogen, and they are ostensibly pen pals over a couple years of their life together. And Joan is 27 and Imogen is 59. And they meet because Joan reaches out to Imogen, who writes an article in a magazine, and she sends her a little packet of saffron. So we get to read their letters back and forth to each other in the very early 1960s. And times were very different. As this little book opens, we are in the Cuban Missile Crisis. It also takes us through the assassination of President Kennedy. So they go through some national events together, and they also go through some really moving personal events together, which is what I really liked. So each of them does wonderful things for the other, and it's an extremely touching book. At the end of this book, I was so moved by it. I wanted to make sure that I had listened to it with enough focus that I gathered everything out of it. So I actually went right back to the beginning and listened to it again. So that's a pretty good recommendation. Now, is this marvelous literary fiction? No, it's not, but it is a very nice story. I listened to it while I was walking, listened to it while I was driving to work and running errands, and I really, really did enjoy it. I was happy to see that the author has written a follow-up to this, and it's kind of a companion novel. I'm sure it's short, but it includes two of the characters out of this original book, and they are moving into their own book a couple decades later. So I will probably try to find that and listen to it, hopefully on the library app, because these are shorter books. If you are a Kindle, or if you're an Audible member, sometimes it feels really painful to spend an entire credit on a shorter audiobook. And I'm not still a member of Audible, but I remember that well. So it's nice to find those shorter reads on the library app. So that one is a definite recommendation for me. If you pick it up, please do let me know. I'd love to hear how it worked out for you. And then the second read, this is going to seem like it's coming maybe a little bit early, but I will tell you that my neighbors have their Christmas decorations out. And when I went out to my little free library this weekend, someone had left a Christmas book in my little free library, and it has these beautiful Christmassy end pages on the front, and also this nativity scene in the back. So it got my juices flowing for a Christmas read, honestly, earlier than I usually would pick one up. So while I did not read this yet, I think I will, even though it starts in the middle of a series. I think I will pick that one up. But the one I did pick up was on the library app, and that is The Christmas Guest, a novella by Peter Swanson. And full disclosure, Peter Swanson is a horror writer, okay? So this is a little bit different than I would usually pick up for Christmas. In fact, it's completely different from what I would usually pick up for Christmas. But he had my curiosity piqued. It was a 2-hour and 45-minute listen. And after having listened to Love and Saffron twice and spending 8 hours listening to audio, I thought, okay, maybe I'm due for a short read. So I did read this about an hour into it. I thought, okay, Kim, why are you doing this? You don't enjoy stories like this. You would not want to spend time with these people. I decided to push on, persevere, because I have heard other booktubers review this book in the past and give it good reviews. So I stuck with it. And I will tell you, the last 40 minutes of this audiobook left me feeling completely redeemed. It was definitely worth my time. So this story revolves around 3 young people, 2 girls that are going to university together, and then the girl and her twin, one of the girls and her twin brother. And the twins are British, and the other girl is an American who's going to university over in England. And they invite her to their manor house for the Christmas weekend, and, you know, madness ensues. So I really did enjoy it. Like I said, the last 40 minutes make up for the beginning. And I realized pretty quickly that I was enjoying Swanson's writing. It's definitely different than anything I have been reading from other horror writers. So he's someone that I would be willing to pick up again. So if you are scary curious, or if you are a scary novel reader, you will probably enjoy this Christmas story. If you don't like horror novels, do not pick this up. Not that it's completely gory, but there's a murder in this. And if you don't want to hear someone try to justify why they murdered someone, especially around Christmas for no reason, I don't recommend that you pick this up. But I did enjoy it. And I enjoyed those audio reads so much that I thought, okay, let me find another. So I picked up another, and this is an 8-hour book, and I have read it before in print, so this is a reread for me. But this is Saving CeeCee Honeycutt by Beth Hoffman. And as far as I know, Beth has 2 novels in print, and I have read both of them. They're both very good, but this was the first one I read by her approximately 10 years ago. And in this novel, we meet young CeeCee Honeycutt. She is when we start out with her, she's around 7, and then we follow her until she is just about 12. And we learn in the book that her mom is displaying the signs of manic depressive disorder. And she eventually does pass away in an accident. And to me, that's when the story really comes alive. That is when CeeCee is taken under the care of her great Aunt Tootie, which is Aunt Tallulah, who happens to live in Savannah, Georgia, in a beautiful old historic home. And I really enjoy that part of the novel. This audiobook, interestingly, is narrated by a young girl, which fits perfectly for CeeCee because she's 12 for most of this novel. But it is a little strange to hear her voicing the adult characters. She's doing an excellent job. I have one critique, and that would be that the Southern Belle accents are a little over the top. It feels more like caricaturization than characterization. And again, that might be my problem. It may be completely appropriate for her to do that. And maybe I just haven't spent enough time with real Southern belles, but that would be the only complaint I would have about this audiobook so far. If you do pick this up on my recommendation, I recommend it in print for that reason. But if you pick it up on audio, just know that about an hour and a half in is when she meets her Aunt Tootie and where those things start to move. So with the mental illness portrayed at the beginning of the book and the family strife and what that does to poor CeeCee as a young girl, it was a difficult listen. And I'll be honest, if I hadn't read the novel in print before, I don't know if I would have kept going. It's so easy to DNF things on the library app if they don't seem to fit right with you. So if you do decide to pick this up, it takes about 90 minutes of the audio to get past where she's having such a hard time and starts to get the care that she really needs. So definitely recommend that book. All right, folks, that is a wrap on this week's video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment below to let me know what you're reading, or if you plan on picking any of these books up. I would love to hear about it. And until I see you again, I wish you nothing but happy reading.